Well, let's do like a theme for Joe Gardner. Hey! That one's good. I like that one. Joe Gardner is someone who is in a tug of war between the ideal self, so what society expects him to be like, and his authentic self.
You got it, go for it.
I love how tentative she is at the start, and then she closes her eyes. Flow state. That's amazing. I love how Joe Gardner's just in. It's odd that kids would laugh at that, I think. How is it embarrassing to pop off on a trombone solo at the age of 12? Crab mentality or something like that. Yeah, I think this movie immediately tricks you into thinking that locking into the flow state is like the whole point of living. We need to superimpose this order onto the indifferent chaos of reality. However, you can't just keep living your life like that. It's easy to latch like toxic productivity onto that, you know, as a belief system. There's a pressure attached to that means that like you're not really in the flow state. You're now just almost chasing a dragon and trying to conjure some sort of artificial flow state to be able to search for some sort of desirable, pleasurable thing that will like fill some sort of void inside of you. And I think that's what this film is already exploring in like the first couple of seconds.
So Connie got a little lost in it. That's a good thing. Look, I remember one time my dad took me to this jazz club, and that's the last place I wanted to be.
Last place I want to be. I love that delivery. It's like, yeah, he's not lying. He definitely did not want to be there. And he's so good at being able to connect with these kids because he was one, you know? So this is his way of sympathizing with their situation.
But then I see this guy, and he's playing these chords, force on it. And then with a
I'll run that back. John Batiste did the jazz bits for this film, which is probably why it's so amazing. What are these chords?
And he's
whoa, what is that? Yeah. Woof! Oh, man, I love these like clashy sort of... There's so much of a cluster like in those inner voicings, you know, and they're like really ethereal chords. Yeah, I mean, these are really warm, like, and I think they're warm because you've got like lots of fifths in here. You know, like fifths are super bright, you know, and fourths are less bright, you know. So like you got the tension and release from like fourth C harmonies to fifth C harmonies, which is really just saying the space between the notes makes it sound like a bright open hug. You know, and sometimes it makes us feel kind of claustrophobic. Immediately we're locked in, you know, immediately we're just like, oh, this guy's got chops, this guy's crazy, man. Like, and you can feel like he's dedicated his soul to it, right?
And he's playing these chords with force on
chords.
And then with a minor,
Minor? That's not minor, but it's fine. I think what happened is they must have recorded all of the jazz elements like before the animation and maybe even before the dialogue. So there might even be like a mismatch of what's said in the dialogue and like the music that is obviously being cued over the top. So maybe that's what's happening. It's not really a big deal though.
Then he has the inner voices and it's like he's singing.
There were no inner voices there, but it's fine, it's fine.
But the next thing I know, it's like he...
Whoa, that's nice. Tritones.
Floats off the stage.
Yeah.
That guy was lost in the
This is odd, because this is no longer jazz. Like... Love that. I love how everyone's enraptured. This is Joe entering the flow state himself in front of them. It's hard to distinguish whether we are being given Joe's spark or whether we're just being shown Joe entering the flow state in front of these kids. He's engaging with his experience fully. And in engaging with his experience fully, he's like inspiring other human beings. He's inspiring other kids. He's almost like rewiring something beautiful and divine inside of their minds. The film later on mentions like humans are kind of simplistic about like their concept of a spark, you know, and in conflating that with purpose, which is like the whole point of this film, which is so clever. Which is interesting because when he gets given the teaching job later, he's kind of just eye-rolling about it and his ego starts to kick in, like, ugh, I don't really want a full-time position teaching these kids. You know, that's not my dream. That's not what I was born to do, right? The essentialism of Joe Gardner. And what is he playing? Yeah, he's kind of just doing that, I think. I can't play it very evenly though. Yeah, and then he plays these up and harmony. My fingers don't like stretch that far. It's simple, but it's beautiful.
And I wanted to learn how to talk like that. That's when I knew.
Oh man, the movement of those harmonies. I'm not even gonna try and play that. That's sick. That's so out of my wheelhouse. That's insane. Yeah.
Connie knows what I mean. Right, Connie?
I'm 12.
It's always the number 12. It's always the number 12. Well, let's do like a theme for Joe Gardner. Let's think. So we need like a constant, right? Like a goal in the distance that is just a constant harping in our minds. So then we can use whatever musical parameter is important for that, whether it's rhythm. So it could just be like, we could just layer that, right? Let's do that. Let's do it. I'm keen. Whoa! Also, all of these stems are going to be free use. Like, feel free to download them, and the link will be in the description. So if you want, make something out of this, send it my way, upload a short, tag me in it. I'd happily make a video looking at what the community makes from these random stems that I've made. Yeah, let's carry on with this. I like this. So we've got our constant. Maybe we can think about using a drone. Yeah. Oh, we can do some crazy stuff with this. Let's start looping. Hey! That one's good. I like that one. Give me Breath of the Wild. It's giving me Breath of the Wild. I love it. Sounds like fairies and pixies and some weird mythical creature that we don't quite understand, but we're not really too scared of. We will shortly be arriving at Westmoreland, Borough Green and Bruton. Not that. No, these ones here. Wow, I think I came up with a few ideas here. We have this dovetail where on the last note of this little violin scribble here, the other violin, if we move that over, is playing like the fifth up from the note that landed on. It sounds like this. It's a good way to stitch things together. These are ideas of happiness, right? This is kind of like a plodding curiosity and almost like a militant march towards a goal, an end goal for happiness. Hence why the harmonic soundscape is so bright. But it still feels like this sort of murky search, you know? It doesn't feel complete. It feels constantly incomplete. It doesn't feel like there's any sort of tension or release anywhere. It's tantalizing you with a carrot on a stick. And that's kind of how it feels, you know. Joe's flow state addiction is this sugary treat that he's kind of chasing in the distance, right, on that receding horizon. And I think that, like, composing from the standpoint of dissecting characters, dissecting stories and understanding, not so much like Joe Gardner equals jazz musician. That's not who his character is. Joe Gardner is someone who is in a tug of war between the ideal self, so what society expects him to be like, and his authentic self, which is what he believes he's chasing. But actually he's chasing something outside of himself to define his real self.
It's your time to go, Joe Gardner.